Welcome back to a brand new video of the Targeted Individual Program, Targeted Individual Experience. One of the things when you become a person who have awareness, not only self-awareness, but awareness of your surrounding, awareness of people, awareness of facts, truth, you have a level of consciousness in which most people will never have. They will never have, right? Because we tend to be oblivious to a lot of things because we are conditioned to be oblivious to a lot of things, right? We tend to believe people who are in a position of authority, position of power, right, without understanding their psychology, okay, without knowing who they are. But because they are a position of authority, we will believe anything that they say. And how do we know about this? Is because we look at the experiments that was done, and they talk about white people engaging in all sort of psychological experiments, so they know how to manipulate each other and us as well. Okay, they know, right? We're the boo boo the clowns because we want to be believers, right? We want to be believers and think that people can't control us, despite of all the truth, the evidence out there, all the documentations, all the facts that they have destroyed, documentation of experimentation, non-consensual human experimentation on people, and some of the documents survive. That's how we know about these things. We know that the government, military, the CIA, sprayed LSD in the subway in San Francisco, New York, Chicago. And LSD, again, it is a hallucinogenic drug, right? And I always talk about Nas Rogers, one of the co-founder of the R&B group Chic, and he was talking about he was a teenager, and he met one of the CIA doctors, right, who gave him LSD, and LSD somehow opened up his creativity, right? Some drugs do that, but it depends on the person, right? Two people can take the same drug and have two different experiences. Okay, but I say that to say that they were giving young black children LSD drugs, even recently in the past 2 decades. Molly, Percocet, all these things that they put into these rap lyrics. These guys are being paid to advertise these things without understanding what it does, because they're living a life of temporary excess, right? So these party drugs, you lose all your inhibition, and again, what you'll find like I said, over the past 2 decades, you start to see more and more black women identifying as bisexual and stuff like that. Why? Because again, these party drugs are a big reason why, right? Because the sexual experience is so amazing while taking these drugs that they lose all inhibition, and particularly when they're around certain groups of men who like to have threesomes and foursomes and orgies and shit like that. And because these women, they want to have fun, they want to be seen as cool, what have you, they will participate in these things, right? So again, it's a reason why also in the Hispanic community, these are the most Hispanic young men and young women are the most to identify as gay, bisexual, transgender, lesbian, right? So there's drugs have always been a part of manipulating us in this form of confusion when it comes to like sexual identity. I'm not saying that drugs is the main reason. I'm saying it is part of the reason why a lot of young men and women, right, have become identified as such. Okay, as well as trauma, right? But there are very few people who are actually born with that sort of psychology. Okay, and when I say few, I mean few compared to the majority of the people in the population. All right, so But anyway, this video is not about that. I say that because when I talk about these black Sambos and Sambinas in the Predator Department, law enforcement, Predator cops, right? And I talk about how when they do what they do to the people that look like them, there are going to be other people that look like them and who are different from them in terms of the white Caucasian, the racist, the Hispanic racists, the Asian racists on the police force, because they are all conditioned to see black people, and particularly black men, as the enemy, as a threat. Okay? Despite the fact that, white men over the past couple of days have been assassinating, Predator police officers. Okay? So, I always say that, it's okay for a white man to fight a cop, go back into his house, right? Cop let him walk into his house and he comes back with an AR-15 and kill them. Okay? Because they don't fear being killed by their own, right? They fear unarmed black men. And these unarmed black men don't pose a threat to them, right? So here, this video I'm showing you here is a brother and sister who come from a law enforcement family, right? Going to the mall and being assaulted by Predator cops. And here's the thing. It wasn't even them. It was somebody else, right? And the other group of people they were looking for, they were black also. They had dreads. But come on, how many black men have dreads? There are a lot of black men in dreads. Okay? I mean, it's just, and then the cop is like, oh, when his sister says, you're a racist, he goes, oh, it's not a race thing. You guys always play in the race thing. It is a race thing, motherfucker, because you couldn't even identify the people who you claim was doing hand signals. And here's another, that's why I love this video right here. Because these motherfuckers get intimidated when other groups of people do hand signals to them, but yet they can do hand signals to us, and it's not a crime, right? It's not intimidation, right? I want you to understand their mindset that they can do whatever they want. You and I can't. They can break the law. You and I can't. Because they gun on the badge, put them in a position, and then the higher ups within their department don't do anything. Even sometimes the mayor at times don't do anything. Which, in this video, I'm not going to play all of it for copyright reasons, but I advise you guys to go look at the entire video. This is the shit that they do. Okay? All right, let me continue here.
A violent takedown.
Within 5 minutes of us parking the car, my brother's on the ground.
Tasers drawn.
This escalated very quickly
as multiple marshals tackle Las Vegas local Tim McCoy.
It made me feel like an animal.
Now you see the brother, he had dreads, now he doesn't, because they literally pulled out a whole bunch of his dreads out of his head. Right? That I was so infuriated, I started cursing. I said to myself, you know what, I need to detox from these type of videos, because videos like this will transform you, and not in a good way. Like I said, there are people out there who live in states that have the right to carry. And these cops, if they don't change their behavior, like I told them, some people are going to take it to y'all. Okay? They're going to come at y'all. But it is because they know that what they do within the society is what is called fear-based conditioning programming within the society, is the reason why they continue to do what they do. It isn't until the people start to fight back in ways that they're not going to like, in ways that they're going to be hurt, that they will begin to change their mindset, that they will begin to treat the population with respect. Because you see, they don't want you to give them your respect, right? They want to use force and terror so that you will fear them. They want you to fear them rather than respect them. Understand the mindset. Again, go and read Norm Stamper book called Breaking Bad. He's an ex-law enforcement officer. I think he was like a commander of a precinct, what have you. And as he retired, he wrote a book, right, on this stuff. So this will also help you to understand the mindset of these cops, how the egotistical dark triad, sociopathic, narcissistic, Machiavellianism type of personality traits that, some of them go into the police department, predator police agencies with those personality traits already on a high threshold or high level. Others, when they join the police force, the training that they receive, the being partnered up with predator cops also shape their personality to also become predator cops. Okay? So again, understanding, as I said, they need to change the curriculum to become a police officer. And this is all over the United States. Every state, every municipality, every county, if you are hiring people to become law enforcement officers, they need at least 2 years of college, at least an associate degree, or a certain amount of credits in certain courses. In sociology will help them to understand society as a whole, help them to understand that within certain communities that have been marginalized, it is done so for a reason. The lack of public funding for certain types of public works, sanitation, stuff like that, housing, public housing, the condition of people living in public housing, particularly when it's one that is decrepit, rat infested, roach infested, drugs, that type of environment will create a certain type of personality within the group of people living there. Now, you do have those outliners, those unicorns, right? Those that able to slip through the crack. But for the most part, the vast majority of people living in public housing, where there's a lack of resources, a lack of cleanness, drugs, all that stuff, the vast majority of people who grew up in those communities will exhibit negative conditioning, negative behavior, sometimes even hostile, right? And if you want to understand that, go and watch the Rat Utopia Experiment by John, I think his name is John Calhoun, on YouTube, and go look at the breakdown of what these experiments, what they learn from these experiments, okay, and how they use it to predict human behavior, right? Behavioral traits, the development of human behavioral traits, okay. All right.
Tim and his sister Alyssa King say they're familiar with law enforcement practices because they come from a law enforcement and military family.
All right. So you see, again, when I say this stuff, right, because I'm able to, because of my consciousness, my awareness, right, this is not thinking outside the box. This is understanding how society operates, how people are conditioned, right? That law enforcement, that those who work within the predator law enforcement agencies also have families. Some of them have kids, particularly if they're black or Hispanic, right? Because their children, their family members, will be targeted by other predator law enforcement officers that look like them. But they never seem to think about it until it happens to one of their own. Until it happens to their father, to their brother, to their sister, to their mother, to their, to their daughter, to their sons, to their nephews, nieces, what have you, cousins, what have you. Then all of a sudden, there's a shift in the mindset, right? There's a shift in that, oh shit, this happened to my son, my daughter. But I did this to somebody else's son, somebody else's daughter. That I lied on a police report to cover my ass. That I ruined people's lives lying. Because the cops on these so-called marshals, they lied. They lied about this man punching them and assaulting them when it's all on video. It's all on video. And also, where is their body cam? Then you have the mayor, racist white woman, saying that she support these cops and these are frivolous lawsuit. No, ma'am, it is not frivolous lawsuit. And the city will not accept any responsibility except they will pay. They have no problem giving out tens, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars for these racist, crooked cops. Right? They have no problem with taking the taxpayers' money. Because when you look at the amount of lawsuits within the past 2 decades that have been filed against law enforcement agencies and officers in this nation, it is well over $1 billion. $1 billion. Right? But they don't care. And again, the people are the boo-boo the clowns. Because the people vote for these people, put them in office. They talk about public safety without understanding, and again, the dumbing down of America. That's why almost half of Americans are illiterate. It is done. It is on purpose. Because the dumber you are, is the more you're easy to manipulate. The ignorant you are, is the more easy you to manipulate. The more religious you are, is the more easy it is for you to be manipulated. Understand that.
Have to treat people like people. And the fact that you're wearing a uniform doesn't make me less of a person.
Surveillance camera footage shows how their interaction with city marshals began on the night of November 11th, 2023.
All right, so I'm not going to play this. I'm just going to say what happened is that you had two people in another SUV. One of them made a hand signal, like a gun gesture at the cop, like he pulling the trigger, right? So it's funny because I laugh at these things, but it happens because these cops can do this to us. They can create gangs and cults and like how they threaten me when I talk about making the gun finger, what have you, and they'll say, "Oh, you crazy? Oh, you don't know you crazy." Nobody, that don't mean that. That don't mean that. Or the whole choking thing that they do. Oh, that don't mean that, right? But yet, you make your finger like a gun and you squeeze the trigger at a cop, like you make your finger like a gun and point at a cop, you go like that, right? And to them, that's intimidation. To them, that's a threat. But when they do these things to us, we're crazy, right? Again, after this video finishes, I'm going to go to the link that I have of the Colbert report, right? And I think it's a video that you guys should look at, particularly if you're a TI. If you're TIs, look at these videos. Also, if you're the general public and you want to see what's going on and how we're being conditioned, right? Because I talked about this, right? I talked about how those in power, those are the true psychopaths, sociopaths. Those that don't have the dark triad personality trait. These are the extreme people, right? They have no problem lying. They have no problem taking millions of lives, right, for profit. They have no problem playing with the civilian population as if we're toys, destroying our lives, propping whoever they want to be propped up. And if that person gets out of line, taking them down and stuff like that, right? This is what they do. These are the true psychopaths and sociopaths. But what they do is that they will focus on the people who they're conditioned to be in that, to take the focus off of what it is that they do, right? I'll give you an example. How is it that no one has been prosecuted for the lie that led to the invasion of Iraq? No one in the government have been, in the intelligence agencies, have been prosecuted for the lie in which the U.S. invaded Iraq, toppled Saddam Hussein, and spent over more than $1 trillion, right? Not only that, but they have stole over $6 billion, right? That was loaded on military planes, cargo planes, that landed in Iraq, and they just disappeared. Just disappeared. No accountability, right? No accountability. But yet, if a poor person who is hungry, what have you, might walk into a store and might have taken food they didn't pay for, he had the money to pay for, he gets arrested, charged, and they basically sentenced to years in prison. There was a case where a black man stole a loaf of bread, and he was sent to prison for 2 decades. But these criminals, the worst criminals in the world, the mass murderers who've killed millions of people, get to live in their big houses, right? Get to get these government contracts, get to work in these corporate offices, get to leave the security agencies, the military, and start their own corporation, i.e. Facebook, i.e. Palantir, i.e. Blackwater, i.e. Who is it? A lot of these cyber security companies, a lot of these, surveillance companies, right? These are ex-military, ex-CIA officers and agents, right? That have created businesses within the public sphere that has a direct link back and forth to the U.S. intelligence service and the U.S. military service. So when they talk about China and how the Chinese government is helping to help their companies grow by funding them, we do the same thing here. Right? So this is our hypocrisy of doing the same thing that we accuse other nations of doing and saying that it's wrong. Right? But I want you to understand who's running this nation. I want you to go and Google Hitler Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels and look at read what he says, particularly this quote, what he says. He says, we have to accuse them of doing what we're doing. You understand what I'm saying? Meaning that those in the security agencies, the military, can engage in wrongdoing. And they know they're engaging in wrongdoing. And in order to take the focus off of them, so that we never look inward, we look outside, outwards, and again, they're directing our attention outwards, is to accuse other nations of doing what we're doing. And we did it first. We started first, right? Embedding spyware on hard drives. We did that first. Then we got smart and said, you know what? Let's embed the spyware in the BIOS update of a motherboard. Because, you deal with computers, there's a motherboard and where you connect your peripherals, not peripherals, but your components, your computer component, your graphics card, your CPU, your memory, your storage devices, right? Your USB ports and stuff like that, right? So let's embed the spyware software in the BIOS, in the motherboard. So it doesn't matter if they say, okay, my computer's hot, I'm going to wipe my hard drive to get rid of the virus. No, it doesn't matter, because you put a new drive in there, you wipe your drive, you put it back in there, it gets infected again, because unless you change the entire component, because even do it within the graphics card driver. We did these things first to other nations, and then we complain because these nations have gotten good at it and do it to us, right? But anyway, so and I'm going all over the place here. That's just when I'm being targeted. I'm just talking. So, but this video here, again, it is telling. I've said this time and time again. So they get into the elevator, they get approached immediately, right? The dude is saying, I don't know what you're talking about. And he walks away. They assaulted him. They literally assaulted him. Right? Other dude was like, what car was the other person or the people driving? What car? The cops were like, it doesn't matter. It does matter. Oh, but you investigated. How the hell are you investigating when you don't have an investigative mindset to say, okay, these are black people, black men. There's a lot of black men in the mall, wearing dreads. What car were you driving? Because the officer clearly said that the other person was in a black SUV, and this guy was like SUV is silver. But the fact that he has dreads, and the nerve of the cops to say, Oh, you guys always playing the race card? Like, motherfucker, you're the one playing the race card. You see a black man with dread and you approach him as if that's the person. They got tons of people. Even the dude, there's a dude that was recording where he had dreads on. They didn't tackle him, they didn't stop him, right? So black people, when they talk about we pulling the race card, understand that in America it is always about race. We see that now. We should have been seeing this a long time ago. It is always about race, no matter what they say. I keep saying that black police officers working in law enforcement and exhibiting the same behavior as these white racist cops do, even the Hispanic ones, the Asian ones, the whoever else is in law enforcement, and how they treat black men and black women and black children in particular. It is always about race. It is race first. Don't let them manipulate you into believing that it is not about race. It is always about race. Because when you look at the group of people who is exonerated for crimes they didn't commit, the majority is black. Right? When you look at people who they ticketed the most, who they target the most for tickets, for false arrests, black people. And black men in particular. So it is always about race. Right? Now some people just say, well, white people get arrested the most. Yes, they do. But when you look at the percentages to the population of white people, then you look at those same percentages to the population of black people, there is a huge discrepancy in arrests, in tickets. And we know from Ferguson that how these police department and municipalities, how they target poor black people to exploit them using the injustice system. We know this. We know this in Minnesota, here in New York, where the New York City Police Department have been found guilty of excessive and predatory ticketing of black men in particular. So don't let them try to manipulate you thinking it's not about race. It is always about race. President Obama get elected. Oh, you elected a black man, so now white backlash. Oh, twice. So now Trump. Come on. A black man can never do what Trump did and sit in that White House. Understand that. That you have to be a perfect black man. And even Obama wasn't that perfect, but he was damn sure close enough that they couldn't find nothing on him. So they had to lie. Because that's what they do. That's who they are. And like I said, if you're a black police officer operating in law enforcement and you treat people, black people, your own people that way, that's racism. Why is it racism? Because in that system, which disproportionately target black people, right? They have the ability to do what? To ruin your life, to take your life, to destroy your family in the most direct way. You understand? These cops don't think about that. These black cops don't think about that until it happens to them. Anyhow, and again, these young people come from a law enforcement family. Now I want to get to the part where, so look, he says, look, right? So there goes right hand to make justice.
When you see the camera on these glasses, you must want to know what makes it so special. It can record videos anytime.
I know, you two got to make
said
that
marshals
money.
were looking for the driver of a black Dodge Durango.
Okay, a black Dodge Durango. So instead of them asking what car were you driving, even when the guy was asking what car was the people driving that you claim make that gesture, and the cop said it doesn't matter. How is it that you're a police officer and you saying it doesn't matter? And then another thing is that these cops have multiple lawsuits against them for violating people's rights. But they still remain on the force because, again, I want you to understand the type of mindset that those people in power, when they put these people and they hire them, how they condition them. Okay?
He made a threatening hand gesture, using his finger to pull the trigger and simulate shooting at police officers. Area surveillance video shows that black Dodge Durango driving into the Neonopolis parking garage right after the silver Hyundai sedan Tim is driving. The Durango's occupants come up the elevator right before Tim, Melissa, and Kenny. Tim and the
Okay, so there you go, right? Now listen.
And aggressively questioned by officers about a topic that they just had nothing to do with.
Attorney George Robinson is representing Tim, Alyssa, and Kenny in a federal lawsuit against the city of Las Vegas and 6 marshals for assault and battery, excessive force, unlawful arrest, and false imprisonment. The lawsuit says Tim...
I want you to understand when I say this that there should be a criteria for hiring law enforcement officers. That once a year, that every law enforcement officer, actually not once a year, but for a month, one Saturday out of the weekend, for 4 hours, they need to go and sit through sensitivity training, also how to identify their ego in certain situations, and also to continue to retrain them in policies and the constitutions, how not to violate people's rights, right? Speaking to people with respect, and also let them know that, listen, yeah, you will be held accountable. You know, one thing that surprised me, there was a black sheriff in, I think it was Florida, that had fired a few predator cops, and about maybe like 15 or 16 other cops placed in disciplinary suspension, right? And it was so refreshing. It really was. It was so refreshing to see that how this law enforcement sergeant, right? And again, I'm not going to call him a predator because, again, he's holding his officers accountable, right? He's firing the bad ones, right? And he's disciplining the ones that he feel that if I discipline them, that the next time their action will be different, right? Their action will be more conducive to becoming good police officers. Because you see, cops like these is what, like I said, you as a police officer, you might be that police officer that drive that person over the edge because of your predatory nature. Okay?
Was punched repeatedly, and as you can see in body cam and cell phone video, marshals held a taser to his side, handcuffed him, then marched him through the Fremont Street experience before detaining him.
I felt awful, I felt helpless, and I felt...
Now, I want you to listen to this. Listen to this part right here. Let me just...
I felt like there was nobody kind of there for me or for us.
As tensions escalate, Alyssa and Kenny try to get answers about the person who supposedly made hand gestures.
Can you tell me what part of that? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You want to go to jail too? Doesn't matter. And then they go, you want to go to jail too? This is what they do when I talk about how they ruin people's lives because of their ego. The fact that this guy was recording the interaction is enough for them to threaten him in jail. So I always say, you know, particularly when it comes to black women or women, right, that they look at black men who have been incarcerated, arrested as less than, as not understanding that the dynamics. And that is the biggest problem between black men and black women, is that the fact that our women don't want to understand that these things are happening to them, the men in their group, at an alarming rate. Okay? So I said, my brothers, listen, I don't give a damn that the fact that you may have an arrest record or a criminal record. Okay? Because I know the reason. All right? I know the factors in ways in which they target us to destroy our lives and to destroy our future.
Because y'all don't know the cars. Because y'all don't know who did it. Y'all don't know who did it. Y'all don't know. It doesn't matter because you detained him. You don't know who did it.
Okay. He's still going
Look
to
at
jail.
this racist piece of shit. Yeah, he's a piece of shit.
Because he's a black man. And he was just the
He's a
first
piece
one
of
you
shit.
saw, huh?
Okay.
It could have been me. It could have been anybody.
Exactly.
That's all you guys do. You play the race card. It's
No,
not
you do the race car. They're the race car. They're the ones that's playing the race car by tackling the first black man that they see. Do you understand what I'm saying? They didn't think in their mind to let me ask him the question. Let me, I ask him, okay, he doesn't know. Let's go check the security cam. right? No, but the first thing they do is to assault the brother. It's like, I mean, come on. They do not want, even here in New York, if you go to apply for the police department, become an officer, and you have a college degree, they would not hire you. They won't hire you. They don't hire smart people. They don't hire educated people. They hire dumb, ignorant cops because they're easy to manipulate. They're easy to control. Right? Because you can get them to do whatever it is that you want them to do. You see, a person who is educated, who can think, will actually be like more respectful. You actually have better policing in America. But they don't want that. Right? Because you are easily to become part of the criminal organization and cover for one another with the criminal actions that they do. Because we see the police department don't get rid of these bad cops. Even when some of them have multiple lawsuits of violating people's rights. They don't get rid of them, they don't discipline them, they don't fire them. And when they investigate themselves, they clear themselves of all wrongdoing. Because they hide the body cam. And then when the body cam comes out, then all of a sudden they want to take actions against the officer, right? And sometimes they will prolong releasing those body cam videos for years. Right? There have been lawyers that have to go to court and get court orders. And even then, they still wouldn't release the body cam, or they edit the body cam. This is what they do. This is ridiculous, right? So these officers lie. Ah, jeez.
Two other citizens have filed lawsuits naming Marshal Sergio Guzman. In a story we first broke in March, this lawsuit alleges the illegal arrest of a driver on the US 95 freeway. The other case that we reported in April was filed by the ACLU of Nevada on behalf of a City of Las Vegas employee. He alleges excessive force, constitutional violations, unlawful detention, and assault during an illegal traffic stop. It appears, based on court filings, that there's a pattern here.
Yes, and now the officers are named in numerous lawsuits. They're just thuggish bullies.
I was pressing the wrong pause button. I was pressing the pause button in the screen recorder. But anyway, yeah, the pattern, you know, and I talk about seeing the patterns and how they, and what they were doing when I couldn't see it before. Right? But now I can, and so they hate it now. So whenever I say I can see the pattern, you know, the New York Police Department start using their sirens, it's all intimidation. It's intimidation to silence me, right? That's what it is. I keep saying, you know, we gotta understand that this system is criminal from its foundation. It is more criminal today more than ever. And I keep saying, you know, think of the police department as a person, just like how the Supreme Court ruled that corporations are people, so that they can, you know, use their huge financial resources to buy candidates, right? So think of the police department, law enforcement, as a person or a group of people, and they all, like every precinct, every sheriff office, every, you know, judicial courtroom, it's its own person. Right? And these people they all have the dark triad personality traits. And on top of that, they have the power and authority to ruin your life, to take away your life, to incarcerate you, to do whatever it is that they want to do to you. And there's nothing you can do about it because you're powerless against these people. Or at least they want you to believe that you're powerless against them. Right? And the only people that are controlling them is the people who have the most extreme of the dark triad personality traits, and these are the elites. These are the corporate owners and the CEOs and the senators, the congressmen. These are where you find the most sociopath and psychopathic people. All right. So go look at the video. Let me get to the link I was talking about with the Clawboard report. I'm gonna try to get I'm gonna see if I can get the transcript. I should have it. I think I posted it on my Facebook page. But you know, you'll go and read it. Read it. Shit, download the damn thing, okay? And keep reading it for you to truly understand what this system and what these people and who they are and what they're all about. All right, welcome back to a brand new video of the Target Individual Program that we'll experience. Again, this is the report that I was talking about by Corbett report. Episode 483, Descent into Madness. Okay, you can watch it on YouTube. You can also go to, I think the YouTube video has the link to the transcript, which is what it is here. And it says, what if the delusions of the dissidents are in fact real? What if their paranoid fantasies are not fantasies at all? In other words, what if it's not the political dissidents who are crazy, but the politicians? You're about to learn the dark history and the even more disturbing presence of political psychopathy. Prepare yourself for descent into madness. Insane, deranged, crazy. In the hands of a tyrant, these aren't mere words, not impartial description of thought or behavior. They're weapons. After all, there's nothing more damning, more completely dehumanizing than to call someone crazy. Liz Winsett, the conspiracy theory thing, I'm just utterly shocked that they could try to make this. It's people wear tinfoil hats. I think they're wearing tinfoil condoms. I'm not sure, because they seem crazy. This is from The Ed Show, MSNBC, March 9, 2012. David Shervin. There's always been crazy conspiracy theories. I think we've all got hunches who over the Thanksgiving dinner have told us crazy stuff. All right, so these going back there. Glenn Beck. It started with 911 truthers crazy, then the birthers crazy. Laura Ingram. That the Bush administration would perhaps have had something to do with 9/11, facilitated 9/11, encouraging the action that took place on 9/11. That is insane. That is literally insane. But now we know that it's not, because we know that 6 months prior that the Bush administration had a warning, had intel that an attack was going to happen in American soil, and they did nothing. They sat on it. Now, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Now we see since 9/11, what happened? The loss of privacy, freedoms of speech, right? The booming surveillance industry. Okay, come on now. Follow the money. But sometimes crazy isn't just a figure of speech. Sometimes it's a diagnosis. And as long as there have been those willing to diagnose others as insane, there have been those who have sought to use this as a label for their political enemy. And why not? Once diagnosed as mentally unsound, political dissidents can be treated as we have always treated those we dismiss as crazy. They can be locked away, drugged, and subjected to all kinds of torture in the name of treatment. Now, the idea that would-be rulers could cynically use the lunatic, and these are the lunatics, right? The so-called people who are doing all of this stuff. All right, I understand that, right? But they are the lunatic fringe. Okay? The idea that would-be rulers would cynically use the lunatic Krugel against their political enemies is bad enough. But what if the reality is the complete opposite of what is commonly understood? What if the delusions of the dissidents are the real fact? What if their paranoid fantasies are not fantasies at all? What if their inability to fit in is not a sign that they are sick, but that the society they're protesting against is sick? In other words, what if it's not the political dissidents who are crazy, but the politician? You're about to learn about the dark history of the even more disturbing presence of political psychopathy. Prepare yourself for descent into madness. Okay, so you guys can go read this. Let me see if I can open up the link into another, so you guys can let's open up the link. Okay, so this is the link. Let me see something here. All right, you guys can go to YouTube. It's on YouTube. The video's on YouTube. The link is not really showing, but where is it at? Here we go. This is the all right. Go to YouTube. All right.
Insane.
Type in this.
Deranged. Crazy. In the hands of...
Okay, and you should see the video. You know, it's very animated. It's really done really well. And you know, you guys start to think different. All right, stop believing. Start thinking different. Right? Like I keep saying, they are going to create the personalities within the society because they want their dark personality within society because they want to take the focus off of them. Once the focus is off of them, right, then they can do whatever they want to do by getting us to participate in crimes in what they call catch-22. Because now, if you feel it's okay to violate somebody else's rights, then you should be okay with somebody else's violating your rights. Understand what it is that they do. Getting your hands dirty, all right, through using manipulation and manipulative tactics, using technology to manipulate us. This is who they're about. This is what they do to get us to a point where we no longer will complain about our rights being violated. We will be complicit. We will be not only complicit, but we would have developed what is called the deception of self. This is what the Nazis did to the German people. All right. And as a black person, I'll tell you that when that started happening, it is us they're coming after. It is us they're coming after. Right? Understand who they are. I'll talk to you guys in the next video.